Hi, it's Lel from Made by Marley. Welcome back to our channel. Do you practice on boards or pieces of old furniture that aren't really going anywhere in your own time, just for mindfulness, just to be good to yourself? Do you ever do that? I do it, and I think it's a really good way of working a pattern, working out what colours to use, and then finding all the pitfalls and what you've done and taking it to the next level. So this was my practice. This wasn't really going anywhere. It wasn't for anyone when I started. There was a few things that I didn't like about it, and this is what I've done. I've kind of given my idea a glow up. So that's why practicing on boards is important. Okay, so this is how it started. It's a heavy wood bookcase. It's got quite a bit of damage to the side. It's not that lovely, but let's make it lovely. So what is the plan for today? What is today's sort of chat that's going to go on throughout is when people ask me how to do things or it's a more experimental thing, I'll say just try it on a board. What do I mean by boards? I mean bits out of old furniture. Just things like this. Try your technique out on it. Fiddle around with it. Try colours on it. Do things like that. That's a good way to, because creativity is just playing. So sometimes I take it a step further and I play on pieces of furniture. Not because I am starting the process as going, I'm going to sell this. That's not how I start. It's purely just playing. It's purely just my imagination, and it's just having fun. So I did something which was my sort of board on a piece of furniture the other day, and I thought I could take this a step further and I could really work with this on a YouTube video and turn it into a more sort of patchwork quilt idea. It was more the sort of colours and the things I did to the piece of furniture. So this is the piece of furniture. There's bits I like about it and bits I don't like about it, because remember, it was just a play piece. It was a piece that was kind of what I was just having fun with it. And there's things I like and things I don't like, and things I can rework on here and things I can add on here. So for example, on this one I'm going to add some inlays. I'm going to add a piece of wood to the top and a piece to the wood to the bottom with some molds. So yeah, so your concept and you're playing around on boards or a bit of old furniture that it's not really going anywhere, it can often put you on the right sort of inspo of what you want to do next. And that's really, I've told you everything. I can just go home now. Right, okay, so what am I doing today? Obviously, my shades of pink. Yeah, this one here is very full and very messy. How did I mix these all up? That's Annie Sloan's Antibes Green, a little bit of Annie Sloan's Amsterdam Green, which is a darker green, and some white. This one here is a little bit of the same sort of deal. It's got Provence. I did put a little bit of Provence in that as well, which is a sort of light turquoisey kind of colour. This has got Amsterdam Green, which is the dark green, some white, and a little bit of Provence. The pink shades are just all shades of pink. I started with Scandinavian pink on 3 pots, and this one I added a little bit more Capri pink. I added a little bit less Capri pink, and on this one I kept it more the Scandinavian pink and added a little bit of white. So shades of pink, shades of green. That's what you need. But remember, you can use any shade you want. Any shade you want. That's the good thing about this. So what I'm going to do after all that talking is I am going to crack on and I'm going to give this piece only one coat, because we're going to be going over the top of it with stencils and all sorts of things. So I'm going to give this piece of furniture one coat of this really nice light green, which is nice to work with. It's a very muted palette for me. And there's a lot of white in the design as well, which is not something that I very often do. So I'll get on and do this.
You've said thousands of times about the bold stuff. Change your palette, do something like that.
That's right, yeah. I mean, quite a lot of the times I'm sure people are watching me going, oh, that won't go in my house, or I'm just not comfortable yet to work with those sort of bright colours. Well, any design that you think I'm doing on this, you can just change the colour palette. Just what if I'm using a hot pink, then just use a very light baby pink. I mean, just change the colours. So I'm going to get on, going to do this, and when this is dry, we'll be back for our next stage. Okay, so this is the side of the piece. I'm starting with the side because I think it'll be easier to show you what I'm going to do. Now, the first This is a stamping project, and the first thing I am actually going to do is I'm just going to set the scene behind everything, and I'm going to use white to do it. So what you need for this is just a selection of different sized stencils, and all you really need to think about is a sort of patchwork quilt effect. So I'm not really it doesn't matter what stencils I have, just use your own stencils. Often I'm asked what stencil it is. It doesn't have to be exactly the same as mine. Use your creativity. Look through your own stencils and see what I've got. So I am gonna just kind of dig in. You're gonna need multiple. Well, you don't need multiple stencil brushes for this project, but you're gonna need one. The problem with stencil brushes is it's not like a paintbrush that you can go away, wash and then reuse. If your stencil brush is really wet, then it's going to muddy up and give you bleed through. If your because stencil brushes are quite hard to dry, so probably for the over the top details I'll probably just use ordinary paint brushes, but to kind of quicken up the process I'm going to use stencil brushes. Right, so this is number 1 down, and let's do another one of these here. And literally, I think you're going to get the concept pretty quickly for what I'm doing here. I'm literally just making a sort of pattern, leaving some of the green in between, that's going to make this look like a patchwork quilt. And how did I hit upon this? I hit upon it from what I did the other day. So that's why I'm saying painting on old pieces of furniture and doing boards really do help. The sort of the process of, you finding out what you like and just playing around with it, because there was things that, as I said, that I really liked about that little pink cabinet and things I didn't like. One thing I didn't like was I tried to distress it after the fact and it just looks a little bit splodgy, so I won't be doing any of that. Some of the ways I layered it I really liked, some ways I didn't. So let's just do something. Just take the edge of this one. I'm not going to go too high up because you understand the drill. I don't think you're going to need loads and loads of stencils for this, but if you want a kind of difference from your underneath pattern, then it may be kind of handy. Let's do something like this on here. Now remember, kind of leaving a wee bit of a gap. This will be literally quite a quick project probably for you guys, because in a minute I'm going to stop filming and I'm just going to go and do both sides and the insides of this with my white. But because it's a lot of repetition, but not a lot of, there's not a huge amount. Once I've done the white, we'll move on to the next part. It's just that you're not missing anything. It's just that there's no point keeping on showing you the same thing. Once you've got the concept for what we're doing, then that's it really. Don't worry if you do things like this and this. We'll just keep those in because that adds to the look. And we'll do another one. We'll put this one down here and we'll leave a little bit of a gap. If you feel, that you're not 100% confident in stenciling, just spray the back of your stencil with tacky spray. I probably feel like I could stencil in my sleep. And I don't tend to get bleed through, but I used to get bleed through because I used to do really silly things like have wet brushes, put too much paint on my brush, do this. That's not, it won't give you a nice stencil. Whereas if you, what method are we using, Matty?
It's the swirly twirly method.
That's right, Matty. It is the swirly twirly.
Or you can just call it the twirly swirly method.
You can call it either one of those.
Either one of those two, yeah.
Yeah, and you just twirl and swirl your brush round on your stencil like this, and it'll give you a much crisper stencil. Always. When you're doing this, bristles just get under your stencil. It's more likely to give you bleed through. Plus, it's really noisy and annoying. Right, so there, we've got 2 of that now. What next? Maybe, what's this one? Oh, that's the one I've just used. What about, this one's exciting. Do you know why? Because this one is a Made by Marley stencil. Must have crept in with all my other ones. But we'll use it anyway. All right. you're starting to get the idea. I'm going to go away and I'm going to build up a background layer of the white in sort of patchwork kind of design, round and round. It's good. The Made by Marley ones have got a nice border that you can cut out. I mean, this has been cut out of Made by Marley stencil, but you can see what the border's like to cut round, so you've got plenty that you're not going to kind of bleed over. Right, okay, and maybe here next. Make sure I mean, normally I'd say things like, it doesn't really matter if it's completely straight. It doesn't. I mean, this is just the beginning layer of many layers. So you understand what I'm going to do. When I come back at the end of this, the piece will be lying down flat on its back, because I'll finish with the white in the back's apertures, and then we'll get on with putting the colour in there so that all the back parts are done first, so that I'm not stretching into the piece and I'm going down onto it instead. So that's how it's all going to end. So I'll be back shortly. I've done the white patchwork with white on the shelves, and I've done some on the front and this inside lip. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to deal with the backs, because the backs are going to be hard to deal with it upright. How am I going to deal with that? I'm going to do some the same way as I've done these with the patchwork, so you've seen that, and some I'm going to put inlays on. So keeping with the sort of patchworky kind of deal, this is the inlay I'm going to be using, and I'm not really going to do a lot of prep. I don't care that I don't have to particularly cut off any sort of any of the rest of the white. I'm just kind of working out which ones that I'd like this shape to be in. So I'm thinking, don't want it solid either, so let's just cut it so that it's more of a kind of pat, because we're trying to remember just to try and keep the kind of the concept running through it, and just putting it straight on the back won't have the same sort of look. So there's one. We'll put this one in here, and we'll get another sheet in a minute, and maybe a section. We'll cut this into two, and we'll do two lots of sort of patchwork with this one, and we'll maybe do one in here, kind of quite central, and we'll do, so that Martin can film it, we'll do one in here. Yeah, I'll get the other part for this main one, just count squares. 9. Just so I've got them kind of reasonably the same size. I don't care that there's not a repeat. That's not what we're about. If you did want to do a repeat, you cut off the excess on both sides and find your join, but I'm not going to do that, but I am going to cut this off just so that there's not too much of a gap. So that's this section. Yeah, and with this other part, we'll just make a sort of big square and a slightly smaller square, and we'll maybe put this one in here, and we'll do a piece down the bottom here. And I think I'd like this top one to be more of a, I'll use one more sheet. I've got quite a lot of this, but I want to run it down this front panel, so I'm kind of I don't want to use too much of it, but I have it to use. So let's just see what this size looks like in here. Yeah, I think I'm going to put that in there. And so now I'm going to put this one here. It's just going to take a minute. I'm sorry that you're having to watch all the mental gymnastics here. Here. And I'll put this one here. There's a brown bit here I've missed with the paint, but I'll get it when I put the paint on for these inlays. So I'll maybe just move this one up like that. Right, okay. How am I applying them? If you've never applied an inlay before, and I know that a lot of people are really scared of inlays, there's absolutely nothing to fear. Nothing. Just make sure you check sides up. I've done it once before and did it the wrong way. Way back at the beginning. So just make sure you check sides up and your paint is going embedded into your paint. I've got the green that I painted the piece with, and I've just lightened it up. I've got this sort of shade now. And really what I'm going to do is, because this is a distress finish, it doesn't matter that it's straight. In fact, the more distressed you can get this outside edge, probably add to the look. Don't worry if you're doing shelves about these sides parts yet. We'll get to them. To be honest with you, I haven't really hugely overplanned this one. So it's a good thing, you know, I'm just kind of being a bit free and easy, because that's how I did the original little one that I liked. And what I did was I adjusted the design, because I thought, how can I make this even better? And this is when I thought putting the inlays on, and that's why practicing is good. Right, so nice and smooth with your paint, and then just pop your inlay on like that. I don't do a whole load of nonsense with them, to be fair, of sprayers, and seen people spray this side. I wouldn't do that either. I'm just kind of like, this is the way I do it and I get good results. I think at this point it's just really important that you don't have any wrinkles in it. That is the main thing you're going for. Make sure it's down and embedded in your paint and it's adhered nice. Right, there we go. Now what you need is a wet cloth. Now you can spray it with a water spray if you want, but I always think it makes everything a bit kind of a bit messy. So wet cloth, and all you're doing is wiping it now, and this is your last chance to make sure that you've got no wrinkles, and you're just making sure that you haven't got any wrinkles in your piece. And that is that. Just now, you have to wait till this is completely dry. How do you know when it's dry? Because it goes white again. So and I think always, as far as I'm concerned, they're better just to dry naturally, as opposed to trying to heat them up with heat guns or anything. Just let them dry naturally. We've got enough, more than enough to be doing right now. So I'm going to get on, apply my squares, just the way you've seen me do it, just a square slightly bigger than my piece of inlay into each one of these squares. And I'll also run the same colour of paint and cut the same pattern and run it down here. It's just the same when you're doing things that are slightly grooved. When you go to put your water cloth in, just make sure that you're pushing down into the groove with your inlay so that it goes in and out of the bumps, as opposed to just sitting on the top and you're not going to get it the proper relief. So I'll go on and do that now. Okay, so I've applied the inlays down the sides, the top, and in the sections that I said I was going to do it. What I'm doing now is, and this is where you really kind of have to hold your nerve on a distress finish, because it really doesn't look good. It takes time to get better, and you make it better with layers. So don't give up at the first hurdle and go, oh no, this is going to be too messy. You have to keep going. So what I'm doing is, I'm literally just getting a paintbrush, and I'm just distressing with a kind of offloaded paint the sides. I have also done the top. Now, why have I done the top? I'll tell you why. My reasoning for that is I've done the tops of them all as well with the same distress, because this is quite a large, heavy bookcase. And if somebody buys it, you're guaranteed they're not going to move it the way you would want it to move it. So they've maybe turned it on its back, and I want the up inside it to look as good as the finish. And I think that's just little things that make a difference, especially if it's being delivered on a pallet as well. What way are they going to take it off the pallet? How are they going to lift it? And you just make it all finish nicely. So this is just a layer. We are going to come back to these sides. And when my brush was wet, I just kind of went like this on the edges with not any particular, I don't, it's just to kind of dress those up. See things like this where the white paint has touched the back? All these things don't matter. These are just as a distress finish, and we'll pull it all together when we get it standing up. Next thing I'm going to get Martin to do, Martin and I will put it back up on its end, And while the inlays are drying and the white distress on the sides is drying, we'll work on the sides, because whatever I do on the sides will be repeated on the shelves. All the shelves where I've done the stenciling will have the same design, or it's just about mix and match and stencils, and we're going to start putting some colour on this. Okay, so we'll get it up on its side. Okay, so the end game for the sides and on the shelves is this to look quite like a patchwork quilt. I want to, before I kind of put any pattern on top of the pattern, I want to accentuate that these are sort of distressed squares. So I've got two flat-ended brushes here, got a kind of larger one and a thinner one. So I'll be using the thinner one on the smaller shapes and the bigger one on the larger shapes. And do you remember at the beginning when I discussed colours? Really, literally what you're going to do is you're just going to kind of alternate between the colours. So let's start with this pink here. And remember, this is distress, so you don't have to have it perfect. And you're just going to kind of, it's good as well if you don't get it all, you know, you miss some parts out, you know, you don't paint all of it in. I'm just trying to make it look as distressed as I can. So then I'm dipping in my other pink. Let's do this one here, for example. Just do something like that. And then let's go in the hot pink. Take it down to your next square. Let's do the dark green now. I'm not even cleaning my brushes between all of this. And really what you're kind of aiming to do, see, when I didn't clean my brush, it gave us a different tone, is you're going to try and kind of match all your squares together, if you know what I mean, so that it's like one solid as opposed to lots of different gaps. That's why we left that gap like this. Let's go in with a smaller brush and let's go with a hot pink and do something like this. Oh, I went and put two pinks together. I can change that in a minute. If you don't like colour, just dip in a different colour and just change it. It's distress, so it doesn't really matter. What about this one here? And literally, this is the next part. As I said, with these looks and the layers, there's an awful lot of repetition and it takes an awful lot of time, and you just have to kind of go, well, this is what I'm doing for today. So I'm going to do this, alternating the colours, going from the greens, changing colours to the pinks. I think the wider, I've never done something like this before, so I'm kind of like working out as I go along, but I think the sort of white, my head tells me the wider ones, the wider brush for the wider squares and the smaller ones for the smaller squares. If not, you're doing away with too much of your stenciling. So something like that. Maybe up here with this. As wonky as you like. And you know what? I don't think this should take you forever in a day. I'm not into the, you know, because this part, it really doesn't kind of almost matter. At the end, we'll put little things in these parts here where we think, right, okay, there's too big a gap there. Bring that round here with a smaller pink brush. I think you get what I'm trying to say, man. Do you think this is quite self-explanatory? Yep. Right, okay, so I'm going to get on and I'm going to make all of this look like a patchwork quilt, if I can, by alternating colours. Try not to put too many colours beside each other. Kind of alternate them around just so it looks a bit different. So I'm going to get on and do that. And by the time I've probably done all of this, well, we'll probably be ready to take the inlays off maybe, and then we'll start filling this out with pattern. Okay. Okay, so this is how it should look once you've put your squares round. Now, I've been a little bit cheeky and I've gone in on the other side as I usually do. So I know what I'm doing with this side. If you are doing a piece, I would always get your eye in on a side. Just makes sense. You want to keep all, when you know exactly what you're doing, keep all that to the front. Not that the side's going to be not as good as the rest. It's just, it gives you a chance to do all the mental gymnastics so you know what you're doing. Right, okay, so this time round, so we've got this on here. What we're going to need next. First of all, you're going to need a stencil that has some edging. And literally, let's kind of work on this part. I've managed to get dirt on my glasses. Colin, the DJ who got the piece from last week, he's just been here picking it up, and every day has been nice, and the day he comes, it's raining. So you're just going to use the same sort of shades, and what you're going to do is, now during the night I had a drip through the ceiling. I had my ceiling leaked, and it leaked into my paint, so it's quite wet, so I'm hoping I don't get too much bleed through. I think it's quite good if you kind of alternate with the sort of darks on the pinks and the pinks on the darks, if you know what I mean. Does that make sense? So let's just do, because what we're trying to do here now is we're trying to give it a, like a, with the stitching around the patchwork, if you know what I mean. And literally you just kind of just start doing this first. Once you've got a whole load of, and you can use multiple different kind of edging. I've kind of alternated between this diamondy shaped one and the one beside it, which is this pink dotty one, spotty, flowery. I'm not quite sure how you describe it, but it's a border. So, and I've just gone along there, and you just kind of making sure that you have gone round all your squares. Now, once you've gone round all your squares and it's all filled out, you want to try and start filling it in, giving it that sort of layered distress look. I'm just going to go across here with this green one as well. I'll do a light green on this one. So that's this and the light green. As I said, just alternate your colours and maybe do here. I always have to hold the stencil brush at the top because it's very long. It's a very long one. I don't know. It doesn't, you don't hold it. I feel it's more inclined to give you a little bit of bleed through. I'll put this light one here as well. And we'll just finish up doing this here. So you get the gist of what it is I'm doing. So then it's really up to you. I didn't use the same stencils as obviously that I put underneath. I just picked a whole new set of different kind of stencils, and I didn't use too many. I see that I put my finger on that there, so let's try and distressed it certainly is. Now, like that. So imagine this section here, but it was across the board that it had this design on it. Now, you're going to pick some stencils and they can go over the squares. They don't have to necessarily be on them. So say this one here could be this colour. And as I said, I've got a bit of a problem because the water, I wouldn't use watery paint if you're stenciling. And I always suggest that you use a little bit of cardboard to offload, because then you're going to get less bleed through. So then you're just picking shapes that kind of complement what's underneath, but they're slightly bigger or bigger, not even slightly bigger, just bigger, and give the impact over the top. Now, you don't need to do it in every single square, just in some of the squares. While I've got the pink on here, what else could I do? Maybe do this shape on here. Now, I haven't got borders on these, but I can come and put the borders on after the fact. It's just so that I'm kind of, you know, not taking too long over this and you get too bored. I have done the shelves as well. Anywhere where I did the stenciling, I have done this. I have done the patchwork quilt. Anywhere where I did the white stenciling. So when I turn it round in a minute, you'll see that I've done the shelves as well. But there's nothing really kind of too complicated on this. Now, what about maybe something like this, and we do something like pink flower in there. And I peeled off some of the inlays that I put, and I can talk you through all this when we get to the front. But if you can find a square, find a section that's kind of square. So I'm going to put this one on here. What I did was I just paint it in, because it's a distressed look, so it doesn't have to be, just as long as it's reasonably smooth. Something like that. Embed your inlay. The problem was I ran out of the inlays, so I'm using that one there isn't, but I'm using all these other ones that I've cut up are second use. They give a much more distressed finish to the piece. So say I wanted to do this one here. Again, try and make it look as distressed when you're applying your paint. And embed. I think sometimes, and I mean, I know this isn't the way you're taught, but I think sometimes with second use, if you give them a little bit of a spray on that side, it kind of helps them along a little bit better. That's just my opinion. You don't have to go with it if you don't think, and you really need to kind of saturate the second use ones. That's how I always kind of think about it. So I haven't done loads of this, but just pick out pieces and parts. Next, what else could we put on this? I have this lotus shape, and let's come along here and do a light pink down here. I don't want to labour the point too much, but also I'm conscious that there isn't so much to this video as there usually is, because it's all very much repetition. And once you get one side and you know that you're just filling it all in with the borders, you can either put your borders on first, or after you've done the main sort of filling them in. You don't need to pick every square, because the trick is to kind of leave some of it just the way it is. It, you know, like with the white stenciling, you don't want to get rid of too much of that, because that's part of the design. So you don't want to go too crazy with it. What else could you do? Well, see in here, you could put a big flower, and you could do that in, got so many stencil brushes now. You could do this in green, using the swirly twirly method.
Always.
Always, yes. It just gives you the best results. Oops. You don't even want to see what my mix mat is like right now. It looks like a disaster zone. So that in there. And I mean, I didn't necessarily go all of the time with a sort of Indian, sort of kind of an Indian vibe. I didn't, I just kind of mixed them and matched them, because I mean, we've got the sort of ditzy, sort of almost Cath Kidston sort of design with the floral. So, but I just felt I should incorporate some of those in the sort of patchwork. And you know, you can see this section here is really starting to kind of look pretty good. I'm going to do something a little bit different on this border here, because it's quite thick, and I just want to give it a little bit of fanciness. Don't know if it's adding a huge amount, but in my head before I did it, I thought it would. There, and that's where they are. I'm happy with that. Got an inlay there. So you see, it's starting to kind of come to life. What about something like this down here? And we use the really light green. And I'm just looking through the stencil to where my pink line is to make sure that I don't go too far with it. It doesn't matter if you go on to the pink line, because remember, it's a distressed finish. So I'm just going to take it up over the top of there as well. Make it a little bit exciting. It doesn't really show up, that one. I'll add a little bit more white to it, and that'll make it. I think it's just adjusting it. As long as you've got you stick to your true colours, the ones you've started with, then you're going to get something, I think, that you're going to end up quite enjoying. And it takes a little bit of time, this. I mean, it took me, I didn't come back onto camera yesterday because it took me so long to just do the parts that I had done. And I think it's just the way it is, kind of thing. We'll go with the dark one in here. Sorry, Martin, I'm jumping about. It's just that I'm jumping about in all the different squares.
I think I'm following you.
Bring that up to that edge there. It's as distressed or as little distressed as you want to make it. And we are going to put a bit more distress on this. Right, so I think you're kind of getting where this is going. What I'm going to do is I'm going to stand up and I'm going to flip around to the other side and just talk you through, just in case my explanations maybe weren't as clear, because there is quite a lot to work out. You put your white stenciling on first in squares, then what you do is you go round it with all the same colours from your colour palette, and you can use any colours you go round, well, any colours in your colour palette, and then some stenciling here and there, add some little bits of the inlay, and as I said, these ones are not going to print out as nice as that one there, but that'll give it a more sort of distressed finish. I'll just twirl it round. Oh, sorry, Matt, I'm using you as a human ladder.
These wheels are the same at fixed. Those ones are the turning ones.
Oh.
So spin it round from where you're standing.
There you go. Nearly there. So this is this side finished. So let's just take, oh, fell in the bucket. Let's just take these inlays off, because I put little parts of inlays on here as well. As I said, I'm not holding out too much hope that they're going to be awesome, because I think on this side actually I used parts that hadn't been previously used. So pull these off here. Whoops, I don't think I'll be using that one again. And there's a big one here at the bottom. If you find your inlays are not coming off, you don't want to keep on pulling them. They can be sometimes get a wee bit dry around the edges. Give them a good squish. Give them a wipe. Give them a minute as well to kind of soften. There we go. This one here was one that I used on the front. I'll show you in a minute, because you can see the lines on it, but I thought that might give it some interest. So there's a few more here which I'll take off. If you've never taken inlays off, you just do it exactly the same way as you put them on. You just make them a little bit moist and then they come off. I'll do this and then so this will speed up the process. All right. This one. I just thought this would tie in the front part, and if without this, then there's not really a. This was one that had been used before. See the stripes on it, which I thought was quite good. You can tell my voice, I think that's quite good. Right, so that's that. Now, let's just twirl her around and let's just talk about what's happened here. You're probably thinking, gosh, she's done a whole load, but I'm going to talk you through everything I've done. So,
right.
These shelves here have been done the same way as I've just shown you on the sides. This one and this one. There's still some like inlays to remove. You'll see this one here. They're just not as good second time round, but I'll show you anyway, just so you can see it. They come out very muted and faded like this, but I didn't think that was a problem, to be honest with you. See? There's another little part here. Yeah. So I've still got you can see here this is all finished because it's got all its borders and everything around it. It's got the pieces of inlay. This one here is at the stage where I need to put all the borders on, put all the edging on. I'm going to show you what I'm doing with the sides. So last time you saw it, it was plain white. All I did was I added some pink wash over the top of it, but I've got the top ones not done so that I can show you exactly what I'm doing. For those that have never used inlays before, I've kept, actually we'll do these ones. These are the inlays that I put on at the beginning. I've removed all the rest. And I've got this big one in here as well, which we'll get off. Because I only put it in so many areas on the back. Let me just get the edges of this. Oops. Get all the edges because I can use these ones again, you see. my patchwork for any other areas. So that's how that looks. The back of this one here. Let's see if we can get it out. It's kind of awkward space to be working in. And that's how that back part's going to look. I'm going to put a border around that. Now, what is the difference between this section here, because this section is finished, and we're going to do that on these back parts now. So literally what we're going to do is we're going to start making this area into squares now with our white stencil on the background, separate it into squares, and then we're going to put some kind of border around it. And what I did was to kind of distress it, because I just thought it looked a little bit too crisp. I just ran a pink stencil there. I used the same pink stencil on these sides, but I'm going to run you through all of it here. And I'm going to set up in a minute, and I'm going to run you through how to do the back part so that you're not missing a single thing. I'll be back in a minute. So we want this to look a bit like this. So what I did was, just with various shades of the pink, I didn't want to lose too much of the white, but then again, I didn't want to make it too pink either. And I've got quite a bit of water on my brush as well, just to kind of give it a little bit of, you know, like, doesn't all have to be pink, but then again, you want to leave some green. I think that's probably kind of enough for that. I don't want to overdo it. Right, so that ends up with something like this. What did I do on the sides? On the sides, I really didn't think about it too much. I know this pattern, I can do it 3 times, so and this is awkward for film and awkward for me to do, so I'll try my best to show you, because I did this on all of the sides, all of them. I haven't done all of them yet, but I'm just showing you what I'm doing. Take the stencil off. If you've got one big finer stencil, then do it with one big finer, but I thought it would give me probably more of a distressed finish if I did it with 3. You don't need to hit all the parts in the stencil either. I mean, that's the other thing about this, because it is distressed. And in the middle, I didn't do all of it, I just kind of ran it along to make it look some of it worn off. That's pretty much how I did the sides. So that's what we're doing on the sides. Now, off camera, a minute ago, what I did was I put all the borders and I did my detail on here. So this is dry. So we're going to work on the back parts. So the backs were green, but I then, to get my sort of squares, I painted them in pink. What I'm going to come along and do is I am going to find something like, you really want to be looking back to the ones you kind of started with almost. So, sorry, I've got this and this. I think maybe I want to do a block of this in the green. Now I've put the paint underneath here so that it's sounding a bit echoey. Just kind of mixing up the back parts. And the good thing about the sort of patchwork quilt sort of idea is that, you know, they can all be different, like a patchwork quilt. So not every one of your back parts, if you're doing shelves, has to be the same. I'm just going to bring this to about here. That there. And maybe, oh, there's a big beetle. They're cute, but they get everywhere on the furniture. Let me just see if I can grab them. Oh. Man, I think we might have to stop filming until we grab them. Okay, that was a little bit entertaining. The beetle has been rehomed. Now I'm just getting other stencils now. Where I've got the big patches of the inlays, I'm not kind of doing too many multiple layers around them because they take up quite big sections, and that's quite a lot of interest. And you don't want to end up looking like it's really just a busy mess. So I think I might put an inlay on that. Maybe not. I'm talking to myself now. Put that in there. I'm gonna run that along here. Just kind of putting the colour back in. I'll show you in a minute, because what I'm going to do once we've got all the pattern done is I'm going to come back and we're going to kind of distress it with colours around the edges and bring everything out. So I'm going to get to that in a minute. Come off. Aha. What next? Maybe start bringing in some of the borders, and I want to really use the sort of, sorry Matty,
Right.
I didn't bring all the paint up that I needed. I wouldn't advise doing what I'm doing and using the shelf as a place to go, but it's just that I've got a mix mat down. It's just that it's was really starting to hurt my knees, so I thought I'll just do this instead. But if you're young and virile and you have nothing on your knees, then I used to just bend up and down, but right, okay, shape there. Let's bring that line down here. I think you're just starting very quickly to get the drill. You're just starting to make each section pretty much look like patchwork. And I'll do this one a hot pink. You can see I'm not even cleaning my stencil. I'm just kind of going for it because they're all the same shades that I'm using. I want something coming down here as well. So I'm going to do this on the backs. I just don't want to get too boring. It's a long piece to make, but it's a very boring piece to film because you're just doing the same things. But pretty much, let's just have a quick recap before I go away and do more. We know that the sides had the white distress, and then I put the water on my brush and put some pink onto it, leaving some parts of the green, and did some stenciling. So we know these sides are all the same. Well, they will be. All the shelves, we know what we're doing. And the backs, you just make up as you go along and you start to add different things. So for example, I can see that this needs something, and I'll probably put a bigger aperture thing here, maybe with the pink. You'll stand back and you'll know. You don't, as I said, you don't want to go too crazy when you've got the inlays on it because they make it quite busy as it is. So something like that, and I'll maybe do one of the green ones coming down from the top, just over the top of the inlay as well. You're layering it. I seem to be losing brushes left, right, and centre, and I don't know where they're going.
Is it that one there?
Oh, there it is. It's just rolling around randomly on my furniture. This one has taken a long time. This one has taken a long time. Not for you in YouTube land, but for me it's taken a long time. So that maybe like that, and I quite like that one, but we'll mix it up with something different. I don't have any of the paisley pattern one on this one, so let's put this paisley pattern shape down the bottom, and then I'll call it quits on this one. I was giving you a recap and I went off on a tangent. There, shocker. Right, I think the stencil can move there. So that there, right. We know what we're doing with the shelves. The same as there and the same as the sides. We put the inlays here. We put the inlays and squares on there. With this one here, I'm just going to put a border around it. And with this one here, I'm going to go back to the white stenciling that forms the beginning of everything and put my white blocks on it. The same with that, and then do the same as this. So this is going to be the same as these. A border around there with some stenciling. The sides are all going to have the pink with pink stenciling. And then we're going to get, next time I come back to camera, we're going to get a palette knife out. We're going to start putting some colours around the edges, fixing this part up here. And then, because I got Martin, at the very beginning, I made a template and I got Martin to go and cut me out of MDF. So once this is all done, because this has to be done and put on first before I can put the furniture moulds on it. I want to put moulds on this, but I want Martin to nail it onto and get it all fixed onto the piece first so I can cover any screws or nails with the moulds. These are going to go here to kind of complete this sort of kind of Indian vibe. I thought I would use, it's Indian, but it's floral, so I thought I would use the new IOD. It might be called Verity. I don't know. The new IOD mold. No, not Veridis. No, the new one with I think it's called either Verity or Penelope, or it's got a name. We'll get to that. And I think I'll cover this in molds. And I've got this shape that's going to go down the bottom here. So this should really kind of add something even more special to this piece and really sort of finish it off. And what we'll do is I'll apply the molds, and I think what I'll do is I'm probably gonna have to leave it until tomorrow and come back and paint just that last piece, just because I don't want to be painting them too wet. We'll see how they go on. It's not something I normally do, but yeah, that's how that's going to look as well. And I think this is actually a really wonderful piece. I mean, you don't very often hear me saying that, but there's a lot of different kind of logistics. There's a lot of fun in this one because it's a distress finish. It's not too contrived, which means that this is the kind of finish that you can do if you're just a starter out and you're just kind of, you know, because it doesn't matter if there's paint drops or mistakes. I dropped a big blob of pink paint on my side a minute ago and I just wiped it like that because we're going to be coming back and doing these things. The look is very forgiving, but it actually ends up really quite stunning. And people kind of aren't sure how you did it all. And it's actually so simple. It's just very laborious and very time consuming. And that's why I've only filmed small sections of it, because it is that boring. I'm going to get away and finish the backs, the sides. We'll come back, we'll put the palette knife distress on, then we'll get the lovely Martin to attach these, and off camera I'll already cast the molds, but I'll show you one. I'll have cast the molds ready to apply them with the glue, and we'll see what I think, whether I really want to paint them wet or not, or we'll see. It's quite a deep mold, which means that it might not lose too much definition, and if I'm gentle with a really soft paintbrush, we might be able to do it, and then that means it'll be crusty, or it won't be completely dry by tomorrow, but it'll be crusty enough that I can bring out the colours in that and seal it up for tomorrow, and tomorrow it'll be finished. But it has been a few days and it does take a bit of time, this look. Okay, so what I've done is I've done all the pieces that are stenciled now, so everywhere is complete when it comes to that. And as I said, it's just one of the matters, it's just a matter of digging in. So what I'm doing now is I've got some pink on my brush, and obviously I want this to look quite distressed as well. So it doesn't matter if you touch up onto this pattern. In fact, I think it will probably just add to it. Heavy and light. This isn't dry brushing because I've got quite a lot of paint on my brush. I'm going to do a bit of that there while I'm on the way past, because now we're getting to the pulling it kind of all together now. So up and up like that. Now while I've got this pink on my brush, let's just kind of do some random, I'm only going to kind of show you what I'm doing with the distress up around the top, some of this here. Now I'll just toss that. I've got a little bit of white left in here, and I've got my palette knife because I think the colour I'm going to distress it with is probably going to be the white. So again, just kind of, now is the time to just kind of add some white wherever you think it's going to need it. You don't need to go crazy, but you know, when it is a distressed piece. And this is what I did wrong when I did my practice piece. I didn't do an overtly distressed piece. I did it quite tidy, and then at the end wished I had done it distressed and tried to put it in at the end. And this is why I'm saying you have to, and it proves the theory about layers on why you need to build up the layers, because it just ended up not cutting it as far as I was concerned. I'm still going to sell it, but it's not I I don't like it as much as I like this one, put it that way. Right, so I've also got a paintbrush here as well because I've only got a little bit of white, so you don't need much. Let's do some things like kind of just put some distress and some white in here. And this is where you just do that thing that I normally do. You just kind of almost, you know, where you kind of put in a bit of distress. You don't need too much, but then you want a little bit of just to carry it through. It's going to complete everything that you're doing. So anywhere where you think it's a bit blocky, you can also do some of this. Sorry, Martin, this is hard to capture, isn't it? Because I'm going quite fast.
No, that's right.
Martin and I once had a conversation about how he has a hard job kind of working out where I'm going to go next.
Yeah.
So
I've noticed whenever I go wide on a shot, it's because I can't keep up with that. So
I think it's because I'm trying to kind of give you this kind of any context if I can.
I was going to say something about your practice piece. You know, like you just saying that you like this more.
Yeah.
That's the point of the practice piece.
Yeah,
isn't it?
it
You
is.
learn something from the practice piece and think, oh, I wish I'd done that. I wish I'd done that.
How much did we both like the practice piece?
I know.
We loved it. I mean, we were both like, oh, isn't it really nice? But I think the reality is when you've done a practice piece, and I mean, I didn't have the inlays and stuff, and I think...
Actually, no, let's not call it a practice piece. Let's call it a development piece.
Well, yeah, a development piece. And I don't know if any of you have ever been to art school, but you do a lot of your design development, and I think that's what's happened. But as I said, there's a reason why I always say bring it up in layers, because it just didn't do anything for the design. Trying to kind of like put quite a lot of the distress in at the end. I don't mean this type of distressing that I'm doing now with a palette knife. I mean the squares and the distress, and it was all done quite perfectly. So you can understand, you're getting the drill. I think I want a wee bit more white along here, and I want it to dip right into that green. I want that kind of to be more of a feature. Yeah. I think it's up to you now what you do. I might take a little bit of, now this is the one that got the water in it, so I'm going to have to be kind of careful. This is the kind of the hotter pink. You might want to do it just as, oh, do we really want to do that? Yeah, let's just come put a little bit of hot pink on this as well. Maybe something here, a bit of that. So the pink and the white is the colours that I'm going to kind of add to the distress. Now, once I've done this distress, I'm going to get Martin to put my wooden parts on, and then we'll discuss what's going to happen next. He's going to put those on for me next. So I'm just going to get on and put my white, my pink, and then we will put the moulds on, and then we'll see whether I'm brave enough to paint it or not, or whether I'm leaving it for a day. Okay, so Martin's put me this piece of wood, which I cut a template for him. It's made of MDF, but now we need to make it look pretty. Why have I put this on it? Because it makes it complete. It finishes off the look for the Indian sort of inspired piece. How did I get these shapes up here? I literally got the stencil that I was using before, and I just literally drew in here to get that shape. So that's all I've done there. Next, I've got a piping bag with some glue in it, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to be doing this a little bit different to normal. Oop, I think my little needs a little bit more cut off of it. Why do I like doing the piping bags when it's something fine like this? It stops it making it too messy, and whoa, wow. That was a theory. I'm only going to do so many because I need these to go to be soft. Now, this mould here is from something Elements, Martin.
Classical Elements.
Classical Elements. Martin always knows that one.
It's the only one I know.
And the flowers that I'm about to show you are from the new mould, which is called Felicity, and they are roses. So I'm using the beadwork as to pull in the Indian part, and the Felicity mould to put some flowers on to go with these sorts of flowers. This is my most favourite IOD mould I think they've ever brought out. I absolutely love these flowers. I love them. I need to find more ways to use them, but it just happened to be that these worked. Now, I've already calculated that it's 6. And this is kind of fiddly. You need 6, and I'm going to need 1 on the end. I've got a clay tool here, and I'm just going along 2, 4, oh, mental mass. I'm doing my 6, and this is a little bit fiddly, but you just need to stick with it. We'll put a single dot at the end of this in a minute. So again, just cutting 2, 4, 6, and I am literally just going to, I can use that one as my 6, so I'll need 5 here, 2, 4, 5. No, why did I just do 5 when I know it's 6? Oh dear. Maths. 2, 4, 6. There we go. So I am going to be gluing those up in there like that. I need to put 1 on here. Make sure I've got plenty of glue. And this is a little bit fiddly, but these are the things that are worth doing. Stand back if it's not quite right. You can fix it. 1 more, and then I'll show you the sort of positioning of where I'm going to be putting the roses. Make sure they're all stuck down. Now, the glue, and you should stick to this really well because it's MDF, it's porous, so it's not like it's lacquered furniture or anything, so it'll be even more stuck on than usual, I would imagine. I just said I wasn't going to do anymore, but here I am. I don't think I need that one on this one. So that's what I'm going to do along here. And I want to try and cover up the screw holes, so I'm going to squash that one slightly, just tidy that one up. That's that pattern. Now, flowers, where am I going to put here? I'll just do one sort of rough idea of where the side is. Apply your glue. Make sure that your glue is applied to all surfaces. Now, because this is the widest part, let's put these on here like that. And what else have I got?
Excuse me.
Oh dear, man, you've got a cough. I didn't do all of the moulds. I just did some of them. It was actually quite entertaining a minute ago, Martin and I trying to put, there's little bits of wood behind here to stop this pushing in. And we were like 2 contortionists, weren't we, Martin? Martin said, could you come and hold it? But like me taking instructions of where he wants my hands to be, it was really funny. He's like, no, watch me. But then I couldn't stop laughing because it was entertaining for me. I don't know if it was as entertaining for Martin, the simple instructions being lost on me, but here, like that. And I need something to go in here, which maybe is this one. So I'm literally just going to kind of do a sort of Indian part and a sort of floral part. And that is my sort of plan. Now, where I've got ones that are, I'm wondering whether I can stick that leaf in there. I'll put it this way around. Oh no, that's not good. Oh, I don't know what I've done with it now. I've thrown it away. Right, I'm just going to slice a piece off something else. See these 3 little roses here? They're going to bite the dust. They're going to go on, shape them, put glue on the back. Always remember, put glue on it. And I'm just going to stick that up in there just so that it all flows nice. So you get the gel. I'm going to go away, do this, right to the end. And then what I'm going to do is, do you remember the original green I started with? I'm going to lightly paint this green. I'm going to leave it overnight. And then tomorrow I'll come back and I'll put the detail in here. And we'll get this all finished up, okay? Okay, so I had planned to paint this white yesterday, but I really don't think it's a good idea. And I looked at them and I went, no, that's not. I want them crusty so that I can paint them. And I know that they're not going to suffer from movement with me painting around them. So I did it right, just left it alone. I came in, I painted it white this morning, and now we're about to put some colours on it. Now, what I did do off camera yesterday was, you saw me putting the flowers on, but what I did was I filled them out a little bit with some florals in between. And I had some bead stuff left over because if you notice, I didn't put the bottom part on. You know how when we first showed you there was a bit for the bottom and the top. The bottom part didn't really add anything to the piece, so I got rid of that. So I had already cast this bead stuff, so I just put it on the bottom of there as well. And I think it looks more finished. And what I'm going to do now is in varying, if you look at these flowers, but without the red, because there's no red in the piece and we don't, well, maybe we could put a little bit of red in it since it's a kind of standalone. What I'm going to start to do is build up some colours with the various shades. I'm just putting little bits and pieces on my roses. Here's a little bit more of a darker pink. And I will do more of a sort of white tone in here. And you're just painting in the roses. I'm going to swap brushes in a minute. And I'm going to do some of the greenery round about them. I'm wondering whether I might touch a little bit of red in. We'll come back to that in a minute. The greenery, you're just going to need a smaller, not a script brush, but a small brush, which is going to, this one here is quite nice. So I've got some green and literally I'm just going to put some green in. Now, you want to keep it the distressed finish so, you know, you can kind of, you know, mix and match, but you don't need to paint all of it. It is just literally to pull all this together. And I do think, and this is what I was saying yesterday, I do think this is a lovely mould. I do think it's really nice to paint. So I'll make these little flowers up here pinker than the rest. And I'm just going to reach over. Now, I've got a lot of finessing for this to do off camera, so it's not going to end up looking like this, but I'm just going to reach over and get red and see what it's like with a little touch of red in it. Just need another small brush. Don't have to put a lot of it on, just, you know, a little bit. It just kind of maybe will bring out some of the detail that we have going on in the other flowers. I could really see that this one here needs a little bit more white. And I'm just going to go around and I'm literally with the same shades that I used to paint piece, I'm going to go around this and I'm going to, I was originally going to paint this green, but I decided to do it white so it all kind of stands out a little bit more. But these parts here, I am going to do, just get some paint on my brush. I'm going to kind of dry brush around them. Remember, you're looking for a kind of distressed look, so you don't want to paint them all in solid. I'm not sure whether I've got a stencil that might work in these little parts here. I maybe have a stamp, but I'm wondering whether it's getting, maybe this is enough. This is quite a delicate part of it, you know, the furniture. I think it's going to be quite nice. Now, I don't actually think it matters too much if I touch the back. Do these green down here. I don't want to paint that in because it's a flower. Right, you can see where this is going. I'm going to add a little bit more red to this one. Let's do the red first and then put pink in. And you're just kind of painting them in. And as I said, I'm going to have to do a little bit more of finesse in this off camera, but you understand what I'm doing now. I'm just painting everything in. Now, once I've painted these in, I'm going to seal it. Now, everybody keeps asking because I don't show my sealer, but it's that hard to get in other countries, but I use French Chic Tough Top Coat. How do I apply it? I give it a really good shake. I put it in a plastic container like this, a clean one, and I get a dish sponge, dip it in, and I go up and down, up and down. So for those that are always saying, you know, what is it I use this, but it is hard to get. So I think it's probably better that you trial your own sealers and find out what you like. Anyway, I'm going to go and I'm going to paint this in and we'll get to staging. Okay, so we're done. This was the inspo. So let's have another look at this. And these were the parts where I was saying to you after the event, I tried to go back and put green over it to try and distress it. Is it a lovely piece on its own right? Yes, it is. There's nothing wrong with it. I didn't like these hand painted pieces either, if I'm really honest. I had some silver handles, which I painted with chalk paint, and I did cream. So this is giving you good inspo if you just have a small piece of furniture. What did I do for the actual design? I took the inlay inspo because I thought, let's mix the girly, pastel-y, feminine element with some Indian sort of inspired stencils and see where it goes. And I think putting the inlay on as well has really done something to the piece as well. I think this makes it. The bits that you missed out, I didn't really like it white, so I painted it all a dark green up the top, and then I just distressed over with the white and along here as well, just to keep it all in keeping. It's a lovely, sturdy, nice piece of furniture. I don't think it'll hang around very long, I don't think. It's practical as well. It's got plenty of storage. Lovely for a bedroom. Okay for a bathroom, I guess. Well, any room, really. Entryway. I'm now thinking about it on camera. Anyway, it wasn't that difficult to do. What did we do? We painted the piece 2 coats of the green. Then we put the white stencils on in blocks. They formed the sort of the beginning of the patchwork. Then we went round them with the colour palette that we were using. Then we put some design work on top of that. Then we cut out little bits of inlay and put them in it. And there was, some of them were second use inlays, so they're a little bit more shabby, a little bit more distressed. The back, I did the same as the shelves, and some have just got the inlays on the back. Sides, I've got stencil, and I've got the patchwork on the sides. So that's it. Sealed with French Chic Tough Top Coat. Martin cut me a piece of MDF from a template I drew, and I will be using the one that I didn't use on the bottom. I've kept over there because I thought, I love this idea and I'm going to use it again. And next time I have something similar to this, I think it was going to work with this piece because it had that little lip and these shelves sat back, so it had something to screw it onto. All the screw holes are covered by the molds. There you go. That's it for this week. So if you've enjoyed this video, give us a like, give us a share, give us a thumbs up, leave me a lovely comment, and any questions or any ideas or anything that you're stuck on, just leave me a comment on that. And Martin, have you got anything to add?
I have.
Oh.
Yes, apart from the usual, I absolutely love this piece. We are inching closer and closer and closer. We are a whisker away from 9,000 subscribers, which is mind-blowing.
Yeah, that's crazy.
For every one of you that has recently subscribed, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Yeah, we're about, I think, 45 away from 9K, which is like, I've told everybody this before, but I used to think if I got to 3K, then that you were kind of bona fide, and if you had 5K, then, you know, people, you had a little bit of credibility, but it just keeps going. It just keeps going. So thank you to all the people that were already subscribers.
Oh,
thanks for the people who were there from the very beginning.
All our lovely channel members.
Yeah, thanks to our channel members. Thanks for everybody who's bought our decoupage paper. Thanks for everybody who is part of our channel. And just to say briefly before I go, the channel membership decoupage piece with the Gustav Klimt, we've been doing this over the last 7 weeks, is now complete, and this week I've got a little few things to kind of finesse and finish off, and it will be sealed and I'll put it on social media. And what I'll also do is, if you go onto my Facebook, I am on Facebook and I am on Instagram, it's Made by Marley Crafts. I put a post in the community tab on Monday telling you about our Facebook and our Instagram channel. You tend to get a little bit more what's happening in behind the scenes that from, you know, during the week and things, and I'm going to get everybody who's in our channel members group because they've all done a piece as well, and we're going to get a sort of montage of everybody's work and post it on the socials just so you can see what everybody did, because it's some out the box thinking. It's just really, really unusual. One design that I sent everybody, and everybody's is different. Yeah. So that's the unique thing about creativity.
The groups are absolutely lovely. The people that are in all the groups, all our channel members, all our group members in the decoupage group, and the amazing people. Yeah, there's a real nice vibe about the group. Everybody's lovely, so yeah, do join.
And don't forget, there is a competition going on right now in our decoupage group.
It's a good one.
So go splurge on some Made by Marley paper, decorate your furniture. You can use stamps, stencils along with it, any colors. There's no restrictions. And I'll get Martin to, can you put the link up here, Martin, or does it just go at the end?
What?
For the decoupage group. I'm pointing.
It'll be in the description below.
Oh, it's in the description. I'm pointing down. It's in the description below if you want to join our decoupage group. And obviously, if you're not already following me on Facebook or Instagram, Oh, run and do it now, because I mean, you don't know, you could get anything on it. Lots of lovely pictures of Eddie. If you don't know who Eddie is, you'll have to go to my Facebook to see. Okay, Martin, are you going to say cheerio and I'll say cheerio?
Okay, then I'll go first this time. Bye bye, everyone.
Cheerio.
See you next Sunday.
We'll see you next Sunday. Bye.